Big trouble if you don't. then the going might, I reckon from then on, for the rest of the 12 games we're going to play.
He's not being intrusive, that's what he needs to do. So I welcome everyone this morning. Have you turned your phones off or put them on silent? It cost you $2 though, John. Anyone else wants to?
I hope I don't bore the non-golfers in the room, but there's a few little anecdotes along the way that may amuse you. But it all started in 1990. Pam and I embarked on a round-the-world holiday, and along the way I played 8 games of golf in Scotland and Ireland, and concluded that no serious golfer should go to that great course in the sky before playing the links courses of the British Isles, where it all began. The trip was to have been in '89, but there was a major dispute between the pharmacy profession and the Hawke government over prescription remuneration. You may remember pharmacists door-knocking marginal electorates before a federal election. AMCAL had nearly 700 members and wanted AMCAL to get involved as a body. I was chairman of the AMCAL board at the time, so I took it on board, culminating with a meeting with Bob Hawke, and I suggested a solution to the agreement which was eventually adopted, but unfortunately the Pharmacy Guild, as usual, took all the credit. Anyway, that's by the by. In 1991 I amalgamated my pharmacy with my larger opposition, so my workload was reduced to part-time, and my 12 years on the AMCAL Chemist Board was coming to an end, so I had more spare time. I have been a member of the Australian Chemist Golf Association since 1970, and once a year it meets for a week of carnival golf which rotates between the 4 eastern states, and I've just come back from my 51st year in a row of attendance. But having more spare time, I offered the Australian Chemist Golf Association to put together a golfing tour of the UK and Ireland for pharmacists, and they accepted this. Back then, communication was limited to snail mail, very limited fax, and the occasional phone call. We did get one phone call from an Irish golf club at 3:30 AM one morning, asking my wife if they could speak to me. And Pam alerted him to the time difference. He said, "Oh, terribly sorry, but can I speak to him anyway?" Not being comfortable with choosing hotels for brochures and not knowing travel times between hotels courses, I decided on a whirlwind 2-week research tour with Pam in September '94, and I was so glad I did. Personal inspection resulted in 9 of the 13 hotels being changed.
Not working.
Next. And accurate travel times were recorded, although Pam was frustrated at having to travel because we were timing distances. She was travelling at the speed of a bus because she's a bit of a lead foot. Another benefit was discovering a coach. Back one. Discovering a coach that had several of its seats removed and 4 tables replaced the seats, so that groups of 4 could chat and play cards. It had a toilet, essential because unlimited on-board refreshments were the order of the day. So in August 1995 it all started, and everyone anxiously chose a roommate who were doing a twin share, so that they would not have to room without one of our huge members who was a renowned snorer. So I was left with him. On the first night at the Bell Hotel in Sandwich, which is down on the Kent coast, within 30 seconds of hitting the pillow, the foghorn began. But having had no sleep since leaving Australia, I had no trouble sleeping. The vagaries of jet lag awakened me about 4 a.m. and there was no snoring to be heard, even after I shook myself to greater wakefulness. This fellow had multiple comorbidities, so I thought, don't tell me I've lost someone on the first night of the first tour. Fortunately, I found him sound asleep on the toilet. Later at a steak restaurant in Woburn, he disturbed the budget by ordering a Chateaubriand for two, all for himself. On the second night, we had dinner outdoors at the George and Dragon restaurant in Sandwich. One of our group offered an attractive waitress 50p to ring her mother to tell her that she would not be coming home that night. The reply was, just tell her yourself, she's sitting over there. We had afternoon tea a couple of days later at Walton Heath Golf Club. 2 platters of ordinary sandwiches, you know the ones with white bread and that awful orange cheese. They were served on silver trays. The cost was £75, and the exchange rates then meant $220. I asked to no avail if that included the trays. Don't worry, I'm not going to go through every day of our trip. One feature over the years was the humour of the caddies at the various courses. A member had a shanker tank, but his caddy in Ireland corrected him. It's a hosel fag, sir. With that assurance, he played much better. Another member eagled the 9th at St Andrews Old, and but sliced his tee shot on the road hole, just missing the Old Course Hotel. You can see it there in the background. He asked his caddy where it might be. In amongst the Bentleys, sir. The 12th at the Old has hidden bunkers in the middle of the fairway. My caddy suggested to me to aim for the church spire in the St Andrews Township, which I successfully did, only to be informed by the caddy that I was bunkered because I'd chosen the wrong church. Still at St Andrews on the 18th, one of our group hit his tee shot out of bounds, reloaded, then hit his approach shot into the hole. Unaware of his earlier misdemeanour, the inevitable crowds behind the green burst into applause. Japanese cameras were, I saw a man have a 2 accidentals. Our man dutifully doffed his cap and bowed. Each time on tour, I included a mystery activity only revealed to everyone on the day it occurred. Included over the years were seats at the Edinburgh Military Tattoo, whisky distillery tours, a tour of the Waterford Crystal Factory before it closed, and 4 speedboats from one end of Loch Lomond to the other, and clay pigeon shooting at Glen Eagles. There's another one there. Yep. I included at least 6 British Open courses for each tour. This is the view of the Turnberry Lighthouse and the what's that rock called? Ailsa Rock. Yeah. In 2017 we had 8 British Open courses on the tour. This enhances the enjoyment of watching subsequent Opens back here in Australia. Castle Stewart, not an open course. I look for hidden gems from time to time, and ultimately decided, apart from a couple of them, Western Gales being one, that supporters of hidden gems are easily pleased. We did, though, go to other gem, which was Al Woodley, just outside Leeds, which was the very first course that the great Dr. Alistair Mackenzie designed. Over the 8 tours I organised over 22 years, we averaged 19 games over 22 days. If this sounds hectic and tiring, it didn't seem like it. The miles on the coach flew by with card games, the occasional quiz, jokes, community singing and unlimited refreshments. Our drivers and porters handled all the luggage and we were pre-registered at each hotel. A minimum of 2 nights and up to 5 at each hotel minimised packing and unpacking, and by dealing directly with courses, accommodation, coach companies, etc., cutting out the middlemen, the cost of the last tour of $11,600 was half of that what you would pay with a tour operator. The friendliness of the locals seemed to increase in proportion to the distance from London. Generally they dislike the Americans but like their tips. The Europeans are tolerated. The Asians are not popular. The Scots are not enamoured by the Brits, and the Irish hate the Pongs. Once realised that we were from none of the above but Australia, then the warmth and welcome was great. They've all been down under or want to go, and they all have a relative here. You must be knowing Harry. He's a tall guy with a beard. And so do the wonderful Irish people. On the west coast, instead of having lunch at Lahinch Golf Club before playing, we found a little Irish pub around 11:45 a.m. The publican was adamant that his licence didn't start until 12 noon, and if caught, his loss of licence would erode his whole livelihood and his retirement nest egg. I told him we would wait, to which he replied, "Would you like a drink while you're waiting?" There's no such thing as an Irish joke, it's merely Irish logic that we find amusing. More Irish logic. Coming into Dublin in the coach after passing an amusing sign which said Dublin about 7 miles, we encountered speed restriction signs on opposite sides of the highway. The one on the left was 50 miles an hour, and the one on the right indicated 60. We had dinner with the Irish chemist that night, and I asked their captain for an explanation. If you go over 50, you'll get a ticket for sure, but you can go at 60 if you're passing another vehicle. Also at Lahinch, we dined at O'Leary's seafood restaurant on the top floor, watching the sun go down over the Atlantic Ocean. At the next table was a group of female doctors and nurses. Later in the evening they put us to shame, just as the Irish chemists repeatedly did, by initiating a sing-along. They have a rule in Ireland that drinks cannot be served more than half an hour after the last food had been served, and the local police arrived to enforce the law. The leading lady doctor reacted with, "Don't you know we're looking after a bunch of Australians, so go away." And they did. Another 3 a.m. night. We had some internal humour as well. When one member asked another what club he had used on a par 3, the reply was 7-iron. One of the opposition, a stickler for the rules, said, "That's a 2-stroke penalty for giving advice." The original member replied, "You might as well penalise me another 2 strokes for the advice I'm about to give you." F. On another occasion, in anger after a poor shot through his club, which landed in the bushes, his partner suggested he might not fire the club, so maybe he should throw it provisional. There's been evolutionary changes over the years. 13 hotels meant that many one-night stops. In '95, subsequently, a majority emerged it would be better to radiate from fewer locations to reduce the packing, unpacking, checking in, checking out, etc. In 2013, we got that down to 6 hotels. Previous one, obviously, was the Turnberry Hotel, and we had a team event there, as you can tell by team shirts. And the other luxury hotel, of course, was Gleneagles, which is a wonderful place to stay, but hopelessly administered. As mentioned earlier, in '95, internet and email were in their infancy and certainly unheard of at golf courses. So snail mail, telephone and facsimile were the laborious means of communication. Over the years though, the internet had replaced snail mail requests for brochures, and emailing was the main avenue of communication, and facsimile had become so 20th century. In the early days I sat in the jockey seat of the coach with maps galore between my knees, making sure we took the best route and did not get lost. Nowadays the driver has a built-in GPS, leaving me to enjoy the journeys with everyone else. In '95 we did not feel welcome at Muirfield. We had to deal with the ultimate spinster. There'd be speckled and strangely named Assistant Secretary Elspeth Mustard, and the ultimate rude grunt Secretary Major Van Rennen. Nowadays times can be booked on the internet and the lovely Anne McCarthy looks after us. It was easy to obtain advance bookings on the old course at St Andrews for everyone in '95. Since then, a third of the tee times were allocated to the ridiculously expensive old course experience. Times are also reserved for members and university students, making it rare to get an advance booking or to get in on the ballot. In 2011, most of us had to line up at 5 AM at the starter's block to get a game. We all did, but one member had to wait until 3:30 in the afternoon to get off. In 2017, 6 got in with the ballot, and those of the rest determined to play all got a game. But by now, 2:30 AM was the start of the queue at the starter's blocks. Just like hotels, our team shirts have greatly improved now that better quality materials are used, and the designs and logos are now more subtle. We were added in logoed vests for the last 2 tours. 62 different courses have been played. 93 golfers have enjoyed the British Isles and Ireland under our umbrella. One has been 6 times, and 5 of them have been 4 times, and I know of no one who's not enjoyed it. More than one has labelled it the best 3 weeks of their life, to which I reply, it was supposed to have been your honeymoon. My pleasure has been giving all these people a golfing trip of a lifetime, which they would have done without me facilitating it. And I have put together a comprehensive guide to golf in Scotland, England and Ireland. It contains not only all the contacts, but suggested restaurants, things to do, and a whole lot more. I've got it all on my computer, and if any of you are contemplating a trip, then just let me know. I'm happy to email the whole lot to you. Personal highlight was a game with this Victoria Golf Club member. A game at the old course at St Andrews, and of course the rider, which I've added, you can't see there, and it's been said before, together these 2 men have won 5 British Opens. Thank you much. Thank you very much.